Above Exalted Cyclops is the 21st episode of the 6th season of 2.5 Men. This is directed by James Widdoes, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. It's a decent episode, and I kind of wish I could remember how I felt the first time I saw this because I knew what was coming, but there's a rather fun reveal quite early on in the episode. It starts off with Alan working on a model car, and Charlie thinks that Alan needs to basically go out and get a girlfriend. He can't be sitting at home working on a model car, which I don't agree with. But Chelsea tells Charlie that she has a friend. They could double date. And Charlie initially isn't great about this, but he eventually agrees. And we cut to the coffee shop where we see Chelsea talking with this friend. We see the back of her head to begin with. And then a couple of seconds later, we realise it's Rose. And I assume I wouldn't have seen that coming when I first saw this episode. And Charlie and Alan are getting ready for this date, and Charlie tells Alan not to bring up the model car, which I don't agree with. Fair enough, it would be quite strange topics of conversation to talk about model cars on a first date, but if they asked about his hobbies, I think it's a great thing to bring up, because I think somebody who has hobbies and interests, something they can be passionate about, I think that's a really big turn on. I think that's brilliant. So I don't agree with Charlie there, but nevertheless, they go to the restaurant and they get there. And Alan is the one to see Rose first, and then Charlie sees. And they don't say anything. I think largely because they're in shock. And Rose doesn't say anything. My opinion is that it's very clear to begin with that Rose knew it was Charlie and Alan, and this was something she'd actually instigated. That's very much my opinion. And the restaurant scene is pretty good fun. I rather enjoyed it. I thought it was fun to see them playing along and not saying anything. It's awkward and uncomfortable in a really funny way. And then after the end of the date, Alan and Rose end up in bed together. And then we see them on the balcony the following morning, and they're not having sex on the balcony, but they are together on the balcony. And it's quite an interesting, and I'd say quite unexpected turn there. And Chelsea still has absolutely no idea. And Alan then goes to pick up Jake, and Jake and Alan are in the car. They're talking about the movie theatre, and then it gets kind of scary because Rose angrily drives up beside them. It's quite intense. Alan's clearly concerned about this. They end up in bed together again, and Alan takes that opportunity to have a conversation about boundaries, which might not have been the best time to bring it up, but it's Rose, so when would have been a good time? And Rose said that she doesn't like this side of Alan. We cut to her leaving, and Charlie sees her leaving, and it's clear that something's happened. Because she said Alan just needs his space. She left, and Charlie heads straight to Alan's room. And we get a couple of seconds of suspense as we don't know what's happened, but I think it's very clear that something did happen. And Charlie goes into the room. Alan's lying on the bed. Nothing looks too peculiar. I couldn't remember what happened. I didn't remember this part, and I was thinking maybe he'd been tied up to something. He's just lying there, absolutely fine. And then he pulls the bed cover back, and Rose had glued one of his model cars to his area. And I love the fact that Alan's not panicking. He's just kind of accepted it as if this is something he should have known would happen if he went to bed with Rose, which is fair enough. You play a silly game, you win a stupid prize. And that's not to say that he shouldn't have ever thought Rose had changed, because he did. He told Charlie that she had changed, but I think he was very naive for thinking that. And he found out the hard way. And it was a pretty funny reveal. And we end the episode. It's quite a quick episode. There's not a lot of variety in what's happening. But it's not really a complaint. Just an observation. And we end the episode with Alan singing Scooby-Doo and painting a little model Scooby-Doo van, which is absolutely adorable. The van, not Alan, but it is quite cute. And Chelsea still has no idea. And then Alan leaves the room limping, unable to walk, clearly in pain. And from where he'd presumably ripped the model car away from himself. And then Rose just appears in the window, quite sinister, quite dark, and it's a fun episode. I'm not the biggest fan of Rose. I do like the character, but I think sometimes it gets a little bit repetitive. But having her with Alan here was definitely a little bit different. I think Alan's behaviour was quite interesting. I love the model cars. Jake was admirable when Alan said he might have been dating somebody, and Jake was all for it. He wasn't concerned that his father was dating somebody else, and it was nice. So a fun episode. Personal highlights would have to be The model cars, I just think they look fabulous, particularly the little Scooby-Doo mystery machine. And in general, just the way Alan handled everything once Rose left. He just accepted that this was his fate at this point. And Berta was in it. I didn't mention her, but she was great as well. So it's a fun episode. Rose-based episodes are not usually any of my favourites, but there's nothing wrong with it. I thought it was still really enjoyable. Above Exalted Cyclops is still pretty good fun.